Welcome to another deep dive. We're tackling a pretty dense but super interesting book today.
Yeah.
The Tree of Knowledge by
Maturana and Varela.
Maturana, yeah.
It's a bit of a tough read.
Yeah, it's not exactly light reading, but it is.
The ideas are incredible.
Yeah, it's packed with like really mind-blowing ideas about how we understand the world. Like how living beings,
Yeah.
from like the simplest single-celled organisms all the way up to us humans.
Right.
How do we interact with and know the world around us?
And they approach it from a really unique perspective, looking at cognition through this biological lens.
Yeah.
It's not your typical philosophical or psychological frame.
It's like a whole different way of thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a little intimidated at first. Like I thought,
Yeah.
oh man, is this going to be like
Jargon City.
all jargon and like super academic?
Yeah.
But it's actually surprisingly approachable. They use these like real world examples
They do a great job.
that help you actually grasp these like pretty complex concepts. It's like they make it click,
Totally. It's a real journey.
Yeah.
Starting with that really basic question, what does it even mean
Right.
to know something?
And they don't waste any time getting to the good stuff.
No.
They hit you with this statement right off the bat that I was like,
Sure.
whoa, hold on a second.
Which one was that?
It's the all doing is knowing and all knowing is doing.
Oh, yeah.
It really like
That's a big one.
made me question
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
So what are they getting at with that?
Well, they're saying that knowledge isn't just about passively absorbing information.
Right.
It's about,
It's not just facts and figures.
no, it's about how we actually interact with the world.
Okay.
We construct our understanding.
I'm starting to see that.
Yeah.
But do they give any like concrete examples of how this knowing is doing thing actually plays out?
Oh, yeah, they have a bunch.
Okay.
One that they start with is the blind spot experiment.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
You close one eye and you stare at a specific point,
Mm-hmm.
and a black dot disappears from your vision.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky.
Right. It's like,
Your brain just...
yeah, what's happening is your brain is filling in that missing information.
Oh, wow.
It's not just a passive receiver.
Right.
It's actively constructing your visual experience.
Based on what it expects to see.
Exactly. And it gets even trippier
Oh,
when
no.
they talk about colored shadows.
Okay.
So it turns
How
out...
does that play into it?
Well, our perception of color. It's
Right.
not just about the actual color of an object,
Okay.
but also about how our brains are interpreting
Right.
the wavelengths of light.
So it's subjective,
Yeah.
even color.
To a degree, yeah. It's all about how our brains are wired.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing.
Right. And it makes you wonder,
It does.
what other ways do we actively construct our reality?
Yeah, like,
Through our interactions.
what else are we missing?
Yeah.
That's something I'm going to be thinking about for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I get how our brains are actively involved in like, constructing our visual experience and
Yeah.
color perception and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this idea of knowing is doing
Mm-hmm.
apply to something like a single-celled organism?
Right.
Can something that simple actually know anything?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And to answer it, we have to delve into this concept of autopoiesis.
Okay, autopoiesis.
Yeah. That's a mouthful,
It is a mouthful.
but it's really...
What is it, though?
Well, it's the defining characteristic of living beings,
Okay.
what separates the living from the non-living,
Okay.
and essentially means that a living being
Mm-hmm.
is a self-producing system.
Okay.
It's constantly creating and maintaining itself.
So, like, it's not just being shaped by external forces,
No.
it's rock or something.
Yeah, it's shaping itself.
From the inside out.
Yeah. From the inside out.
Okay.
It's like, imagine a cell. There's
Yeah.
this whirlwind of activity going on inside.
Yeah.
Proteins are being built, membranes are being repaired,
Right.
DNA is being replicated.
Like a little factory.
It is a little
Yeah.
factory.
Constantly buzzing.
Constantly renewing itself. And
Yeah.
that's what distinguishes.
So even a single-celled organism
Yeah.
is engaged in this constant dance of like
Yeah.
self-creation.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing
It is. And that,
when you think about it.
according to Maturana and Varela,
Okay.
that is the foundation of cognition.
So it's not about having a brain or a nervous system.
Not necessarily. It's
Okay.
more fundamental.
It's about this interaction.
Yeah, this interplay between the organism
Yeah.
and its environment,
Maintaining itself.
maintaining its own
Yeah.
organization.
That's pretty profound.
Right. it really changes how you view
Yeah.
what it means to know.
Yeah, knowing is a lot more active than I think we usually give it credit for.
Mm-hmm. It's not just having information, it's this constant...
Back and forth.
It's back and forth,
Yeah.
this interaction.
So how do we go from
Yeah,
these single cells doing their thing
right.
to like the incredible diversity and complexity of multicellular life
Right.
we see
Yeah.
today? Did the cells just like decide to team up one day?
Well, the book dives into this concept called structural coupling.
Yeah.
Think of it like those dancing cells we talked about,
Right.
but instead of just like a brief interaction,
Right.
they link arms and start doing this more complex choreography.
Okay, so they start working together,
Yeah.
influencing each other.
Yeah, coordinating their
Right.
actions.
And is there like a real world example of this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
A great one is the slime mold Dictyostelium.
Slime mold.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they start out as these single-celled amoebas,
Okay.
just doing their own thing.
Right.
But when food gets scarce,
Oh.
they undergo this wild transformation.
Like what happens?
Well, they aggregate,
Okay.
they come together,
They team up.
yeah, and form this multicellular slug-like creature.
A slug.
It's pretty wild.
So it's like this collective
It is, and this slug,
survival mechanism.
yeah, it can move
Wow.
sense light.
It's more than the sum of its parts.
Exactly.
Sure.
And eventually it transforms again
No way.
into a fruiting body,
What?
releases spores.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
Wow.
Creates new generations of amoebas.
That's a whole cycle.
Yeah.
From single cells to this collective and back again.
Yeah. Highlighting the power of cooperation,
That is incredible.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we have another development
Okay.
in multicellular organisms.
Right.
The nervous system.
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's a game changer.
It's like upgrading from
Yeah.
dial-up to broadband, you know.
Exactly.
It allows for such
rapid communication.
that communication
Yeah.
between different parts of the organism.
It opens up so many possibilities.
But how does the nervous system actually work
Okay.
in terms of like cognition?
Right.
Does it create?
This is where things get interesting,
Okay.
because it's easy to fall into the trap of
Yeah.
thinking that the nervous system is like taking in information
Right.
from the environment
And building a little picture in our head.
and creating this representation of the world.
Right.
But the book pushes back on that.
Okay.
It says that's not really what's happening.
So what is happening then?
They argue that the nervous system isn't about representation.
Okay.
It's more about enabling the organism
Okay.
to engage.
In a more
Go on.
nuanced way.
Okay, I think I need an example.
Okay, they have this really fascinating example
Hit me with it.
with a frog.
Okay.
They surgically rotated the frog's eye.
Rotated its eye.
Yeah, 180 degrees.
Like upside down. Yeah. So the frog was essentially seeing the world upside down.
Oh man, poor frog.
Right.
It must have been bumping into everything.
Surprisingly, no.
It wasn't.
No. It was still able to catch flies.
Even with its vision flipped.
Yeah, with incredible accuracy.
Wow. So it didn't have to like relearn its environment.
Right. And that suggests that,
Or create a new mental map.
yeah, it's not operating based on some
Yep.
fixed representation.
Okay.
It's more about this.
So it's like a constant adjustment
Yeah.
based on the feedback it's getting.
More
More of like a
feedback loop.
feedback loop
Yeah.
between perception and action.
The book calls these patterns of interaction sensoromotor correlations.
Sensor-motor correlations. That's a mouthful.
It is.
I'm going to have to practice that one.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like our understanding of the world isn't based on these static pictures.
No.
It's this dynamic
It's this interplay
interplay.
between our senses, our actions,
And the
and
environment.
this ever-changing environment that we're always embedded in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
So then the question becomes, if our nervous systems are so good at this,
Yeah.
this interaction,
Right.
how does that translate to
Yeah.
the complexity of social interactions?
Yeah. That's a big leap.
It is a big leap.
From a frog catching a fly
Right.
to like humans building societies
Exactly.
and communicating with language.
But the book argues
Okay.
that the principles of biological cognition,
Uh-huh.
they apply even to the most complex
Okay.
social phenomena.
So even something as complex as human society
Yeah.
can be seen as an extension of these
Yeah.
basic principles.
Mhm.
That's pretty amazing.
And to understand how that works,
You ready?
we need to look at how individuals become coupled
Okay.
in what they call third-order couplings.
Third-order coupling.
Yeah, it's like those dancing cells.
Okay.
But now we have multiple dancers interacting.
Creating these more intricate patterns and
Yeah.
following.
And communication becomes crucial
Right.
for coordinating those
Yeah.
interactions.
But with humans, we have language,
Yeah.
which adds a whole other layer.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell me more.
That's a great place to pick up next time.
Okay, I can't wait.
All right, so last time we were talking about communication.
Yeah, like in that biological sense.
Right, that reciprocal structural coupling.
How organisms influence each other.
Yeah, but language, that takes it
Yeah, where does language come in?
to a whole other level.
Okay.
Maturana and Varela, they emphasize this,
Okay.
that language involves abstraction and recursion.
Okay, those are some big words.
They are, could you remind me what those are again?
Yeah, could you break those down?
Sure. So abstraction, it's basically our ability to use symbols.
Like words to represent things that aren't physically present.
Okay, I see.
Like think about the word tree.
Okay.
It's not a tree itself, right?
Yeah.
It's a sound or a written mark
Right.
that stands in for the concept.
Okay, that makes sense.
So we can talk about things
Yep.
beyond our immediate sensory experience.
So like instead of pointing at a tree,
Right.
we can use the word tree to talk about
Okay.
kids of
The
trees,
trees, yeah.
even ones we haven't seen.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about recursion?
So recursion,
That one's a little harder.
it's the ability to embed ideas within ideas,
Okay.
like layers of meaning.
Give me an example.
Like the cat sat on the mat that was under the table.
Okay.
You've got the cat, the mat, and the table.
Yeah, all those ideas.
All nested within each other.
It's like those Russian dolls.
It is. It's like those Russian dolls.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that allows for really
Yeah.
complex expression.
So we can build these really complex the mental models of the world
Exactly.
using symbols and these
But these nested ideas.
nested ideas. It's
Yeah.
like language gives us this whole other dimension of communication.
It's a whole other level,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then what about animals?
Okay.
Like chimpanzees.
Right.
They can use sign language.
Yeah.
Does that mean they have language?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And the book acknowledges that chimpanzees,
Okay.
they can use signs to communicate,
Right.
but it's not quite the same as human language.
So what's the difference?
Well, they haven't shown the
Yeah.
same capacity for abstraction
Okay.
and recursion.
So they're not writing poetry.
Not yet.
Okay.
Their communication tends to be more concrete,
Yeah, more about
more immediate needs.
immediate needs and desires.
Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that difference in linguistic ability
Okay.
that has big implications
So what?
for how we understand human consciousness.
Okay, how so?
Well, the book argues that language,
Okay.
it creates this linguistic domain for humans.
A linguistic domain.
Because it's this world of symbolic representation and
Right.
recursion
Yeah.
that allows us to do all these things.
Like what?
Like reflect on our experiences.
Okay.
Imagine possibilities.
Uh-huh.
Share those reflections with others.
So it's more than just communication.
It's more than just basic communication.
It's really the foundation
It is. It allows us
of awareness. Yeah.
to build these
Or speak.
complex social worlds.
We can talk about things that aren't there.
Yeah, we can think about the past.
Right. The past and the future.
The future.
We can tell stories.
We can create narratives.
It's like this whole other dimension.
Yeah, it's amazing
And-
experience.
And this linguistic domain.
Okay.
It's had a huge impact
Uh-huh.
on the evolution of the human brain.
Oh, interesting.
So the development of language,
Okay.
it's led to changes in brain structure.
So our brains are literally,
Different because of language.
it's shaped our brains.
Wow.
Particularly the areas for abstract thought planning,
Mhm.
social cognition.
So it's not just a cultural thing.
Right.
It's like deeply biological.
deeply rooted in our biology.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And this brings us to one of the most profound insights
Okay, I'm ready.
from the Tree of Knowledge.
Hit me with it.
Human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's not simply a product of our brains.
Okay.
It emerges from our ongoing interactions
With the environment.
with the environment, particularly
Good.
within this linguistic domain.
So we're not just isolated minds
No.
trapped in our skulls,
We're embodied
Good.
social beings,
shaped by the world.
constantly shaping and being shaped.
Yeah, and especially
Throughout the world around us.
through language.
Through language, yeah.
Okay, I'm starting to see
It's through our interaction.
how this all fits together.
Yeah, our conversation.
Right.
Our shared stories.
It's all
Cultural practices. That's how we create meaning.
it's like this
That's how we construct our understanding.
nice and interplay
Yeah.
between
It's an ongoing process.
our minds and the world.
Exactly.
And language is the key.
And this idea, it has
Right.
big implications for how we think about learning,
Yeah.
social change.
Like what?
Well, it challenges that idea of knowledge
Okay.
as something that's passively transmitted.
Right. Like I'm just downloading information.
Yeah, like a download
Other
of
than
the
the
internet.
internet.
Exactly. But it's not like that.
So it's more about.
It's about active engagement,
Okay.
dialogue,
Ah.
co-creation of meaning.
So it's not enough to just lecture at someone
Right.
or hand them a textbook.
It's about creating spaces
Right.
for conversation.
For people to actually grapple
Yeah, where people can wrestle with ideas.
with those ideas.
Yeah, and construct their own understanding.
That's a really different way
Well-
of thinking about education.
And we can apply that in
Yeah.
so many different areas, classrooms, workplaces, even
Even just our personal
personal relationships.
by fostering dialogue,
Yeah.
encouraging people to engage.
To really think for themselves.
Yeah, and that's how we create a
Okay.
richer, more meaningful
I guess
understanding
Yeah.
of ourselves and the world.
it's making me rethink
Mm-hmm.
how I approach learning.
It's not just about memorizing facts.
It's about being part of that conversation.
Yeah, it's about
Yeah.
participating in that ongoing
Right. Knowledge is
conversation of knowledge
it's
creation.
always evolving.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about how language shapes
Yeah.
human consciousness.
Hmm.
But what about...
This is where the
not-
tree of knowledge gets really fascinating
Okay, tell me more
because it applies those same insights
about biological cognition.
about biological cognition
Okay.
to understanding these
Right.
large-scale social phenomena.
Societies and cultures and all of that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Remember those third-order couplings?
Oh, yeah, those multiple dancers.
The multiple dancers
Yeah.
creating those intricate patterns.
So it's like those interactions
Yeah, those interactions
between individuals.
that create these
Yeah.
new levels of organization.
New levels of organization.
And complexity.
Like a colony of ants.
Exactly, like a colony of ants.
Okay.
Each ant
Each individual ant
is relatively simple.
But together,
Yeah, but collectively,
they create this complex society.
they can do amazing things.
Yeah.
Build these elaborate nests,
Right.
forage for food.
Defend their territory.
Yeah, they can wage war.
It's amazing.
It really is.
Yeah.
And communication
Right, they have to.
plays a crucial role
Communicate somehow
in coordinating all
to
that.
make it all work.
Exactly.
But with humans,
Yeah.
we have language.
Yeah. Which adds this whole
That's the next level.
another level.
And that's where we'll pick up next time.
I can't wait. Okay, so how does language shape those complex social worlds? Like, where do we go from here?
Well, the tree of knowledge, it really emphasizes how language, with its unique abilities,
Yeah, the abstraction and recursion.
abstraction and recursion, yeah, lets us create these social realities that
Uh-huh.
go way beyond just the immediate needs and desires of individual organisms.
Could you remind me again what those are?
Abstraction and recursion.
Yeah, just so we're all on the same page.
Yeah, so abstraction, it's basically our ability to use symbols, right?
Okay.
Like words to represent things that aren't physically present.
Right, like the word democracy.
Exactly, like democracy. It's not a thing you can touch.
Right,
It's a concept.
the big idea.
Yeah, that represents a whole complex system.
Right, it's more than just the word itself.
Exactly. And then recursion.
Okay, that's the trippy one.
Yeah, that's the one where you can like embed ideas within ideas.
Right, like layers of meaning.
Layers of meaning, exactly.
Give me an example.
Okay, how about she believes that he knows that the earth is round.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
You've got these multiple layers
Yeah.
of belief and knowledge.
All nested inside each
are
other.
nested, exactly.
Like, whoa.
It gets pretty wild.
Language is powerful.
It is. It allows for such nuanced communication.
Where we can build these complex
We can,
mental models of the world.
yeah, we can share not just information,
Right.
but perspectives.
Our interpretations.
Yeah, our understanding.
It's like we're sharing our whole way of seeing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is where those third order couplings come in.
Oh, yeah, the
Yeah.
multiple dancers.
Yeah, remember the
Creating the intricate pattern.
So now with language,
Right.
those couplings, they become
Yeah.
even more intricate.
So instead of just coordinating simple behaviors.
Right. It's not just about
Yeah.
foraging for food anymore.
It's like we can build society.
You can build society.
We can create art.
We can create art. We can have moral codes.
We can argue about philosophy.
We can argue about the meaning of life.
Yeah.
Language allows us to do all of that.
It's like Language is the operating system
That's a great analogy.
for human society.
It really is.
It's how we program our collective behavior.
We create a world
Yeah.
that reflects our shared understandings.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. And this brings us back to that central idea.
Okay.
Human consciousness. It's not just in our heads.
Right. It's not just a product of our brains
It emerges from these interactions
with the environment.
with the environment. Yeah, particularly
This-
in this
this-
linguistic domain.
Especially, our minds are constantly being shaped
They are.
by the language we use,
Say the language.
the stories we tell,
The stories, the interactions, the
interactions we have.
We're not isolated individuals.
Right. We're part of this.
We're nodes in a network, yeah, of communication and meaning making.
And language is like the thread that connects it all.
It really is. And that
Yeah.
means the language we use,
Right.
the stories we tell,
They have a huge impact.
they shape our reality.
Yeah.
And this has big implications for everything, for
Sure.
education, for social change,
Yeah, for how we understand ourselves.
for personal growth. Yeah.
If we want to create a better world,
Yeah.
we need to pay attention
We need to be mindful
to language we use.
of the language
Yeah.
and the stories we tell.
It's not just about conveying information.
No, it's about
About shaping reality.
Yeah, shaping the very fabric of our
Yeah.
social reality.
That's a powerful thought.
It is. And I think that's one of the most important
Yeah.
takeaways from the Tree of Knowledge.
It really makes you think about language
Yeah.
in a whole new way.
It's not just a tool.
It's like this force,
This force.
that shapes who we are.
It shapes our understanding
Yeah.
of everything.
This has been a really mind-blowing deep dive.
It's a fascinating book.
Yeah, I'm going to be thinking about this for a while.
I think we all will.
So for our listeners,
Yeah.
if you're ready to
If you're ready to dive
into this world of
Yeah.
biological cognition,
and challenge your assumptions.
yeah, check out The Tree of Knowledge.
It's a great book.
It's definitely a book that will stay with you.
It will
It's
as you
really-
engage with the world,
Yeah.
as you communicate, as you interact.
Yeah.
You are actively shaping your reality.
Wow, that's
Here's
inspiring.
the evolution
Yeah.
of human consciousness.
So until next time,
Keep exploring.
keep those minds open
Keep questioning.
and keep on learning.
And we'll see you on the next deep dive.